Well, hello, that's me again. Today is May 3rd, 2025. It is Saturday, so I decided to give you some food for thought for the weekend. But before I go with my main course, so to speak, I want to address things which pop up in my commentaries apart from trolls, but all those pardon me, I have no other word to describe, term to describe it. Fanboys, warfare fanboys, all those gamers and all those mom's basement, guys who say that, oh, why did you say that drones are not the future of the warfare when you can see yourself this and that, and they begin to reference all kinds of the videos. Evidently, people do not listen to, or they evidently have some understanding, lack of understanding of what they hear, or what is called listening comprehension issues. Nothing wrong with them, make no mistake. I deliberately do not say who said that, why they said that, but this is the issue which needs to be resolved. I never stated that the drones are not the future. I am stating that the drones are just one part and not the biggest one of the future. And you can, if you go into my commentary section to my videos, you will see yourself that there are very many, all kinds of the military guys all over the world, including, for example, the guys from the U.S. Marine Corps, the guys from U.S. Army, and people who understand things. They say, yeah, you nailed it. Yes, artillery is a god of war. Let me explain simple thing. Let's do the comparison. Let's do the basic math. Why drones, while very important, and they are going nowhere, they will continue to be the part of the, on the tactical level especially, of the combat, on the tactical level, and even in some operational sense. But let's take a look. Let's go to the loitering munition. Well, loitering munition such as Zala Lancet is essentially the drone. So it's a very advanced drone. Obviously, what most of the Western media describe it as some kind containing, for example, like the parts from Czechia. I understand they are butthurt. They need to constantly, pretend or portray Russians as incapable of doing things on their own. But you know what? However, this is beyond the point here. Take a look at Lancet 3 loitering munition, which is the, as I already stated, type of a drone, and you can see yourself that maximum payload weight is 3 kilograms. That's explosives. 3 kilograms is still a lot, believe me. That thing, when it blows, it explodes. It's just not nice to be nowhere near it. But some sources, including the U.S. Army Recognition Guide, say that it can take up to 5 kilograms. I don't know. It's probably will reduce its range, and I think that 3 kilogram is kind of, appropriate number. And as you can see yourself, it can fly for the 40 minutes, and this is what would be considered a high end of the drones. The rest of it, if you take a look at those smaller FPV drones, maximum they can take is they can take, for example, tandem charge from RPG, for example. And you often can see it, it's significant weight. But here's the problem. This is what many people still refuse to understand. Drone is one-time use weapon. And in all of itself, even some drones which are like Lancet, they are expensive. Let's face it. Of course, those smaller drones, FPV drones, which you literally can 3D print, they are cheaper. But maximum they can carry is couple of grenades, couple of hand grenades, maybe like this 6 propeller, what is called Baba Yaga Ukrainian drone. It can carry slightly more. but reality is it is primarily anti-personnel thing. And this goes back to the opening sequence from my last video, where you saw yourself how Russians deal with a strong point in this particular case. At that particular case, it was the MLRS most likely, and here comes this issue. It's economics, and it is actually fire impact, or if you wish, the fire productivity. That's literally is the official term which is used in the tactical manuals. It's fire productivity. There is also the fire impact. I'm translating it from Russian to English language. But let's take a look at this thing. As you can see yourself, this is Msta self-propelled gun. It's pretty much standard issue, although much more capable and tremendously longer range, actually the longest range self-propelled gun such as Koalitsiya is coming, and already I used in actually industrial quantities. But here, if you take a look attentively at Msta, which is the standard issue of Russian artillery, field self-propelled artillery, you can see yourself that the speed, what will be the fire productivity essentially for the Msta, it's 7-8 rounds per minute. So 7 to 8 shells per minute. The complex, which is called the load, tactical load of this machine, this self-propelled gun, is 50 shells. 50 rounds or 50 shells, if you wish. You see, it's all underscored. What does it carry? It carries, and I mean, it can shoot a variety of the shells, including the such things like Krasnopol, which are the smart munitions. And but if you take a look attentively, what you have here is a standard, what is called high explosive fragmentary round, 152 millimeter, 3V OF32. And so, as you can see yourself, the amount of the explosives, apart from having the 43.5 kilograms weight of the shell itself, it has the 6.8, almost 7 kilograms of the explosive, apart from the other means of the what is called поражение, impact, including those fragments. So, well, what can I say in this case? If you take a look at even Msta with its 50 rounds, which it has the tactical load, what it can release, well, multiply 50, okay, let's go roughly 7 kilograms. 350 kilograms of explosives could be delivered by this rather a very advanced machine. It has a very developed system of the topography tie-in. It uses GLONASS. It's sophisticated, very advanced, and has an extremely good ballistic computer. So there you go, 350 kilograms. And this is one machine. Guess what? It can go back, roll back. It will have the loading truck, specially designed loading machine, and it will reload it again with those 50, all kinds actually, of 50 shells. So it can produce fire impact time after time after time, delivering 350 kilograms of explosives around the area, or having high precision weaponry, which literally, including armor piercing shells, such as, well, there are, as I already stated, Krasnopol. They will blow up any kind of tank. It doesn't matter what kind of tank you have. It will be killed. So, but guess what? Those shells are much cheaper, and you can produce them. Russia produces them like, I don't know, 3 to 5 times more than all combined West combined, all NATO. So there you go. That's your fire impact, and you can repeat it again and again and again and again. Then you have to go and change the linear, what is called linear of your barrel on the gun. Or then do the justification. Yeah, that's called justitia. Justirovka, well, justification essentially, just basically do the proper targeting and technical service of the linear, and it's back in action. So you understand now. Suddenly this thing moves, it's difficult to catch it, and it can deliver devastating firepower. And I'm not even going into the MLRS, multiple launch rocket systems, and especially, as I already stated last time, such as Tornado. It can cover the horrendous, as you saw yourself, in one go, it pretty much, if it decides, it can wipe out the platoon, if not the company's strong point. You see? Much better than drones in this case, right? Drone is the specific weapon. It's a niche weapon, very important. It will continue to be very important in the tactical action, especially, but primarily it's main purpose of this is to be high precision strikes, such as, for example, if you take a look at the larger drones which Russia uses, and of course we have the new generation of drones which already have been tried by Russian Air Force, and I'm not talking about only S-70 Okhotnik, which some of them crashed because Su-57 pilot had to shoot it down because it malfunctioned, but we are already talking about swarms of drones. Su-35 and the Su-57s, they are fully not only net-centric, Su-30SM also not-centric, but they are capable of operating the swarms of drones. So it is future, but please, let's not go and pretend that it decides everything. It looks very cool in the videos, sometimes rather dramatically horrible, but artillery, and including rocket artillery, which is MLRS, are the god of war. They run the show, essentially. And what can I say? This is what I wanted to address immediately. And those people who do not understand that war is not about how it looks cool on some video, war is about math, calculus, statistics, everything. So you have the probabilities, and you have to go with what is empirically have been proven. So drones are here, they're going nowhere, they will continue to develop, but it is just the niche or one part of the much larger tactical and operational picture in which artillery, including the rocket artillery, remains one of the, well, the god of war. That's how it's called. So now we go to what I wanted to, actually I wanted to talk about the Wall Street Journal article, as always the BS created by this tabloid. Wall Street Journal is tabloid, and normal people generally do not work in the establishment media. And this is the article I wanted to talk to you about. Sadly, as always, well, as you can see, the Russian military moves that have Europe on edge. Well, okay, that's fine. So, and I wanted to discuss it. I will have to postpone it because, of course, Mr. Trump comes up with this. So, as you can see yourself, and he talks about this, we discussed it already, that many of our allies and friends are celebrating May 8th as Victory Day, but we did more than any other country by far, introducing a victorious result on World War II. So, and he's talking about the renaming of those, well, holidays, if you wish, or remarkable dates. And when you look at this, and some people, there are many trolls, there are many Ukrainians, including Ukrainians who work on the special forces, special organizations there, who are, you know, trolling in the comments, and some moron periodically, especially the guy who cannot believe and cannot accept the fact that Europe was defeated by Red Army. Combined Europe, it wasn't just Hitler and Nazi Germany. So they go, oh, you're obsessed. No, I'm not obsessed with this topic. I'm just doing my job. I'm doing my job of straightening, of putting facts straight. So, and when you read this things from President of the United States, that you have even Mr. Medvedev who said it's just nonsense. I mean, it's just absolute nonsense. I want to kind of go back in history and explain, which, by the way, in no way detracts from heroism and dedication of the allied servicemen, Americans, Canadians, British, obviously, all kinds of people who participated in liberation of Europe, which today is not, doesn't look so much liberated because it comes back to where it was before. But look at this. let's recall, Mr. Trump is not very good with numbers. But let me go and remind you this. This was FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who on February 22, on the eve of the celebration of the Russians today celebrate as the Day of the Defender of the Fatherland, well, it was the Soviet army holiday, he sent message to Stalin, February 22, 1943. Remember, it was already triumphant conclusion of the Stalingrad battle, which devastation which was visited on the Axis forces. And he wrote that on behalf of the people of the United States, I want to express to the Red Army on its 25th anniversary our profound admiration for its magnificent achievements, unsurpassed in all history. And he talks about, obviously, the repulse of all kinds of the Wehrmacht and Axis forces offensives, which have been, of course, checked him at Leningrad, Moscow, Voronezh, and the Caucasus, and finally at the immortal Battle of Stalingrad. The Red Army not only defeated the enemy, but launched a great offensive which is still moving forward along the whole front from the Baltic to the Black Sea. And so the enforced retreat of the enemy is costing him heavily in men, supplies, territory, and especially in morale. Such achievement can only be accomplished by an army that has skillful leadership, sound organization, adequate training, and above all, the determination to defeat the enemy no matter what the cost and self-sacrifice. The Red Army and Russian people have surely started the Hitler forces on the road to ultimate defeat and have earned the lasting admiration of the people of the United States. Well, evidently not by Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump obviously doesn't admire, and he just says that, he says things which come to his mind, evidently, which are not normal things for especially the person who is the president of the superpower. But then, of course, we go into the Stalingrad battle. And, well, before we go, however, I want to send you back to, for example, New York Times, which is the February 24, 1942. And Churchill extols Red Army deeds. He expresses admiration and gratitude in an anniversary message to Stalin. And other officials join him. Faith and victory is stressed. 600 drink toasts for the Soviet forces at embassy. Boy, they were probably drunk there, okay? So anyhow, and Churchill expresses their, British officials send warm messages today to their opposite numbers in Russia to convey Britain's gratitude for the valiant part played by the Soviet armed forces in withstanding and overcoming the onslaught of the Nazi war machine. So you see, Churchill wasn't the friend of Stalin. But then, of course, we have Stalingrad battle. What is the Stalingrad battle? I will continue to remind you what Stalingrad battle is. So here is the stat. Not this BS, which very many in U.S. Army actually, and so-called historians, none of them are, operate. Well, basically getting the data from Wehrmacht, which somehow fought so much better than Red Army, yet somehow ended up, surrendering and being defeated. The Battle of Stalingrad is the bloodiest battle in the history of mankind. The total losses amounted to more than 2 million people. Germany lost over 900,000 soldiers, and USSR lost 1,130,000 people. The battle lasted 7.5 months on the vast territory, and so you can take a look at that. Mr. Trump, obviously, he probably understands millions, that's his calculation capabilities, but he doesn't even understand, obviously, the scale. Well, Russians and Germans, not only Germans, Romanians, Hungarians, Italians, all kinds of people were there, all kinds of armies. Italians had 2 armies there. So I can tell you one thing, that, he doesn't understand what it means to lose more than 2 million people. But obviously, Churchill knew it. Churchill, who was a rabid Russophobe and a rabid anti-communist, that he stated that During the talks of the Tehran conference on November 29, 1943, Winston Churchill stated that Stalingrad became a symbol of courage of the Russian people and together with the symbol of the greatest human suffering. This symbol will remain for centuries. Not in Trump's mind, of course. It is necessary that the future generations could see and feel all the greatness of the Volga won the victory and the horrors of the raging war of extermination there. It would be good to live untouch the terrible ruins of this legendary city and next to build a new modern city. The ruins of Stalingrad, like ruins of Carthage, would forever remain a monument of human endurance and suffering. They would have attracted pilgrims from all ends of the earth and would serve as a warning to future generations. He was actually very precise and, yes, emotional, as Churchill very often was, and as much as the Russophobe and he hated Stalin while admiring him, he still had the guts to admit what was happening. And then, of course, we have this is famous Stalingrad scroll from Washington, D.C. In the name of the people of the United States of America, I present this scroll to the city of Stalingrad to commemorate our admiration for its gallant defenders whose courage, fortitude, and devotion during the siege of September 13, 42 to January 31, 43 will inspire forever the hearts of all free people. Their glorious victory stemmed the tide of the invasion and marked the turning point in the war of the allied nations against the forces of aggression. But again, you know, obviously Trump knows it's much better than, for example, Franklin Delano Roosevelt or Mr. Churchill. So, but we will continue. I want to continue with this. So, let's take a look who Mr. Gackenholz was. And here's who Mr. Hermann Gackenholz was. Hermann Gackenholz was a German professor of history. He studied history. Here's his academic background. In 1936, he became an employee of the Army War History Research Institute. In 1939, he was drafted and switched several times between military service and desk. In the spring of 1943, he became a clerk for the War Diary of Army Group Center. This is critical. From 1943, he is essentially official historian of the Army Group Center of Wehrmacht, which was the greatest army of them all. So let's see what happens in June, namely starting from June 22, 1944. Apart from, we are meet now, we forego, so to speak, looking into Kursk and other, those very famous Stan Stalin's strike, or blows, if you wish. Well, let's take a look. This is Operation Bagration. Even just when you look at the map, it stuns it in its scale, essentially. Is the greatest offensive operation in history. Millions of people have been involved in this, astounding battle. And as you can see yourself, the operation lasted from the 22nd June through 19 August. And we go now to the, well, again, the guy who knows better than Mr. Trump about World War II, because he is now none other than the grandson of none other than David Dwight Eisenhower, D. Eisenhower, pardon me. So David Eisenhower. So here what he writes about this Operation Bagration. In Operation Bagration, this is from his outstanding book, Eisenhower at War, 1943-1945. And he talks about what was wrought on the on Wehrmacht, which, of course, Churchill stated. We can go and take a look at what Churchill stated. Churchill stated this about Operation Bagration. This what he stated. In speech on the House of Commons on August 2, 1944, Churchill stated, I have left the obvious essential fact to this point, namely that it is the Russian armies who have done the main work in tearing the guts out of German army. And so, and then he repeated it in October 44. He said, I have always believed and I still believe that it is the Red Army that has torn the guts out of the filthy Nazis. So, here is a reaction. Many people stated, that's interesting why there was this reaction. Well, here it is. Here, when describing the situation which was happening starting from the June 22 with, well, attempts to stem the tide, which they couldn't, and they lost enormous amount of territory and lost their, well, essentially army group center. Here Gackenholz poses in his commentary to reflect on Hitler's remarks, who tried to patch up the thing with one infantry division. That Führer, in ordering the relief of Vitebsk, was either exhibiting a lack of insight or being cynical, or perhaps Hitler was reluctant to admit to those present that a force stronger than his will was shaping the conduct of the war. Why did I highlight this phrase? Because this is what is happening now in the White House, this is what is happening in London, because they feel, they may not understand that force stronger than their wills and capabilities is shaping the conduct of the war. In any event, Hitler's miscalculations had allowed the army to break into open terrain behind German lines in White Russia, Belarus, which is where it threatened Minsk, and the army grew communications as well as the new far-reaching objectives in the direction of Warsaw and German frontier. In Gackenholz's opinion, Germany perished that night. Simple as that. This is the official historian of the Army Group Center since 1943. But of course, so, and David Eisenhower, well, yeah, writes about this in correspondence between Churchill, Roosevelt, Eisenhower, Marshall, Brooke, and Smuts. There is scant reference to the Russian destruction of German Army Group Center in a matter of 5 days, while the British and Americans remained pinned in a 60-mile strip of northern France. Information was sketchy, or perhaps the omission is an instance of what Butcher has called suppressed emotion that would interest a psychiatrist. And so this suppressed emotion continues even today, rewriting the history of the World War II, and Mr. Trump not just rewriting, he is retelling it in anew. And so here's the situation. For the next 4 weeks, the Allied press would watch on with admiration and a touch of unease. How far would the Russians go? And so, well, Mr. Harriman, who was actually, well, there was no CIA then, but he was an agent of the Special Services and Office of the Strategic Services, and he hated Russian guys, Harriman. Mr. Harriman, who was ambassador to Soviet Union, he stated in postscript, he sent the letter to Eisenhower. Harriman intimated that he had seen Stalin's the day he was describing after watching the documentary which United States provided for Red Army, describing Overlord as an unheard of achievement. And here's Eisenhower's blood running. Harriman may have been an unwitting conduit of an implied affront, for if Overlord had been an unheard of achievement, what words could describe the still greater victory on the Eastern Front? Yes, that's the whole point. And in the end, you know that, well, Russians ended up, of course, as you can expect, in Berlin, defeating and, I mean, the remnants of the Wehrmacht and taking 3 million prisoners of war. So it's a sensitive topic. But, you know, what can I say? If you take a look today at what is going on, remember this guy? Yeah, you remember this guy, right? Yeah. So here's the American iteration of this guy. He used to be the congressman, and he is a veteran. He flew there, you know what, all kinds of the tanker aircraft. Nothing wrong with flying tanker aircraft, but look at this. The guy is mentally challenged, and he is moral. He has a degree in political science, and he obviously went through ROTC to get his wings for flying the large, you know, lumbering things. And he talks, as you can see yourself yesterday, that still think Russia is defeating Ukraine? Watch this. And so the guy who has no real military education, he's basically a pilot, nothing wrong with the pilot. He tries to convey to people that, yeah, Russia's still losing, you know, evidently. So, I don't know, yeah, I guess Russians lose the war. And you remember this phrase about those forces which are stronger than will of those people shaping the reality. Hitler couldn't, well, he felt it already, he knew it, even if you follow his famous the only recording, private recording of Hitler when he talked to Mannerheim, Baron Mannerheim, the head of Finland in 1942. He already admitted that we never thought that Soviet Red Army was that well equipped. Yeah, 35,000 tanks. That's what he counted at that time. So, but what can I say? Evidently, Adam Kissinger knows Kissinger knows better. I mean, he needs to be obviously institutionalized if you look attentively of his erratic behavior, but he fits really well with his lack of any real military expertise, because he will understand what cadre officers do in staffs, and you know how they plan operations. We all saw how the NATO plans operations. So, but yeah, CNN, that's his military advisor. So don't be surprised then that whatever the wars America fights, it loses them. But what can I say? So, and this is what I wanted to tell you today, instead of doing the larger, so to speak, review of the strategic and doctrinal thought in the United States and how it relates to special military operation. But what can I say? We have the 80th anniversary. Zelensky already threatened to do the terrorist acts. That's London. London also behind that. They cannot find their place. You know, the idiots could have been the part of the parade in Moscow on the 80th, but well, they decided to support Nazis. So they stained their heroic British people with this forever. You know, so what can I say? There is no comment, but Mr. Medvedev correctly stated, if anything happens, which they will try to do terrorism, they will try to attack all kinds of the civilians, that's what they do. At this time, yeah, as he said, on the May 10th, there will be no Kiev. And yes, Russians have no reason to, play with this thing, nicely. As Mr. Zarubin asked Mr. Putin yesterday in his wonderful interview, if he says, Vladimir Vladimirovich, do you have sometimes desire to smash something like, Kiev, for example, or something of this nature? And Putin, jokingly, but pretty much correctly stated, all the time, but I have to fight it. So there you go. If Mr. Zelensky wants to die together with all political elite of Ukraine, he might try to attack whatever he tries to attack, Moscow or Sevastopol. They did try to do it today and yesterday. It was repelled. Then I don't think Russia needs to play nice anymore. And yeah, Kiev could be just flattened, and Russians can do it without the use of the nuclear weapons. So this is what I wanted to tell you guys today, and as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel, and those who can afford, please support me on their Patreon or buy me a coffee too. So I'll talk to you later, and have a nice weekend. Bye bye.